Commander Veltar stretched his forearms and yawned as his ship drifted through the empty darkness of space. Another boring day of cataloguing primitive species for the Galactic Council. His job was simple enough. Find underdeveloped civilizations, study them from a distance, then decide if they were worth helping or just too dangerous to ignore. Today's target was a small yellow star with 9 planets orbiting around it. The locals called it Sol, though Veltar doubted these creatures even knew other star systems existed. His scanner beeped softly as it detected the 3rd planet from the Sun, a blue and green world covered mostly in water. "Dr. Quinsha, what are we looking at here?" Veltar called to his science officer, a purple-skinned female with tentacles. Instead of hands, Quinsha's tentacles danced across her control panel as data flowed across her screens. "Pretty standard stuff, Commander. They're sending out radio waves all over the place. Mostly entertainment broadcasts and military chatter. Looks like they discovered nuclear fission about 80 years ago. Oh, and they've got some really crude rockets that barely make it off their planet." Veltar nodded, making notes on his digital pad. This was exactly what he expected. Every primitive species followed the same predictable pattern. First, they learned to split atoms, then they figured out space travel, and eventually, if they didn't blow themselves up first, they might develop faster-than-light technology in a few thousand years. "What's their violence level looking like?" he asked. This was always the important question. Some species were too aggressive to ever join. "Galactic society. High but manageable," Quinsha replied, zooming in on different parts of the planet. "They fight wars pretty regularly, but nothing that would threaten other worlds. Mostly they seem to fight over resources and territory. Pretty typical for Level 2 civilizations." The Galactic Council had a simple rating system. Level 1 species barely used tools. Level 2 species like these humans had basic technology but were stuck on their home planets. Level 3 species could travel between nearby stars, and Level 4 species like Veltar's people could cross the entire galaxy in weeks. "So what's our recommendation going to be?" Quinsha asked, already knowing the answer. "Standard observation protocol," Veltar said with another yawn. "We'll park out here behind their largest moon and watch them for about a year. If they seem promising, we'll make contact and offer them guidance toward becoming a proper galactic civilization. If not, we'll just file a report and move on to the next system." Meanwhile, deep beneath the bustling city of Seoul on Earth, Dr. Hyunwoo Kim was having a very different kind of day. His fingers flew across holographic displays in a control room that officially didn't exist. Warning lights flashed red as his deep space monitoring systems detected the alien vessel hiding. "Near Jupiter. Contact confirmed," he spoke into his headset. "Alien survey ship exactly where our projections said it would be. Beginning Phase 1 protocols now." Across the globe, similar hidden facilities activated. Captain So-min Park acknowledged from a base built inside one of Earth's supposedly abandoned lunar craters. Commander Jae Sung-kwon checked in from a mining station in the asteroid belt that appeared on no official records. Dr. Young-suk Han confirmed ready status from a research facility floating in the clouds of Venus. "All stations remember the rules," Hyunwoo transmitted to the network. "Continue normal broadcast patterns. Keep all advanced technology offline. We need them to think we're exactly what we appear to be, a bunch of primitives who just learned to split atoms." The plan had been in motion for decades. When humanity first detected signs of galactic civilization through careful analysis of background radiation and quantum fluctuations, world leaders made a critical decision. Instead of announcing the discovery and hoping for peaceful contact, they chose to prepare in secret. While the rest of Earth continued with normal life, going to work, watching movies, arguing about politics, a shadow organization worked tirelessly to develop defenses and countermeasures. They studied every scrap of alien technology they could find in ancient crash sites. They decoded fragments of galactic communications. Most importantly, they learned that first impressions mattered enormously in galactic politics. "Dr. Kim," So-min's voice crackled through the quantum communicator. "How long do we maintain the charade?" Hyunwoo studied the alien ship's movement patterns on his display. "Their standard observation period is 1 solar year. We'll give them exactly what they expect to see for the first few months. Let them get comfortable and sloppy. Then we'll start showing them glimpses of our real capabilities. And if they decide we're too dangerous, then we'll show them just how dangerous underestimating humanity can be, Hyunwoo replied with a grim smile. But hopefully it won't come to that. These council species seem to prefer diplomacy over warfare. We just need to make sure that when we do reveal ourselves, we're negotiating from a position of strength rather than weakness. Above them, Veltar settled in for what he assumed would be a routine year of watching primitive humans stumble around their little corner of space, completely unaware that those same humans were watching him right back. 3 months had passed since Commander Veltar parked his ship behind Jupiter's largest moon, and he was getting seriously confused. These humans weren't behaving like any Level 2 civilization he'd ever studied before. Something was very wrong with his neat little categories and predictions. "Quinshaw, run those numbers again," he said, staring at his display screens with growing unease. "This can't be right." His science officer's tentacles worked frantically across her instruments. "I've checked it 6 times, Commander. In the past week alone, the humans have launched 17 separate vessels toward the outer planets. That's impossible for a species that was barely reaching their own moon 3 months ago." Veltar felt his 3 hearts beating faster. Maybe they're just sending more primitive probes. You know, the kind that take years to reach their destinations. "That's what I thought too," Quinshaw replied, her voice tight with worry. "But Commander, these ships are moving fast, really fast. I'm detecting propulsion signatures that shouldn't exist in a Level 2 civilization. These aren't chemical rockets anymore." On his main screen, Veltar watched red dots representing human spacecraft spreading throughout the solar system like drops of blood in water. Where were they all coming from? His initial scans had shown maybe a dozen primitive space stations orbiting Earth. Now there seemed to be dozens of human installations scattered from the inner planets all the way out to the edge of the system. "Sir," Quinshaw's voice cracked slightly, "I'm also picking up energy signatures from their homeworld that are completely off the charts. 3 months ago, their power generation was consistent with basic nuclear fission. Now I'm reading fusion reactors, antimatter containment fields, and some kind of quantum energy manipulation that I don't even recognize." Veltar stood up and paced around his small command center, his forearms gesticulating wildly. "This doesn't make sense. Civilizations don't advance this quickly. It takes centuries to develop new technologies. It takes millennia to go from chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel. What are these humans doing?" Before Quinshaw could answer, their communication array suddenly activated without warning. Both aliens froze as a clear, strong signal cut through space directly to their ship. The voice that emerged spoke perfect galactic standard, the universal language that took most species decades to learn. "Unknown vessel currently positioned at coordinates 847 Delta, behind Jupiter's moon Ganymede. This is Admiral Ji-Hoon Lee of the Seoul Defense Network. You have been under observation for the past 97 days. You now have 30 standard minutes to identify yourselves and state your intentions in this system, or we will consider you a hostile force and respond accordingly." Veltar's jaw dropped open so wide that Quinshaw worried it might never close again. His mind raced with impossible questions. How did they know his exact location? How did they learn galactic standard? And what in the name of the cosmic void was the Seoul Defense Network? "Commander," Quinshaw whispered, "they shouldn't even know we exist. Our cloaking technology is rated for Level 4 civilizations. How are they tracking us?" But Veltar couldn't answer because he was staring at his tactical display in absolute horror. Red warning lights flashed across his screens as his ship's sensors detected multiple human vessels approaching from different directions. They weren't just approaching, they were surrounding him. "Sir, I count at least 12 human ships converging on our position," Quinshaw reported, her tentacles shaking as they worked her controls. "They're moving in perfect formation. This isn't accidental, they've been planning this." On Earth, Admiral Lee stood in the command center of Harmony Station, watching his carefully orchestrated plan unfold. The alien ship was exactly where intelligence had predicted it would be, doing exactly what the behavioral analysis team said it would do. Humans might be new to galactic politics, but they were very, very good at psychological warfare. "Dr. Young-Suk Han, what's their status?" Lee asked his chief science officer. Their energy signatures are spiking all over the place, she replied, studying her readings. I think they're panicking. They're probably trying to figure out how we detected them through their cloaking systems. Captain Donghyun Cho grinned from his position at the tactical station. Should we tell them about the quantum resonance detectors we've had monitoring their ship for the past 3 months? Not yet, Lee replied. Let them sweat for a while. They need to understand that they're not dealing with primitives who just discovered fire. Dr. Kim, is the Mars facility ready for our little demonstration? Back on the alien ship, Veltar was frantically trying to decide between 3 equally terrifying options. He could try to run, but the human ships looked fast enough to catch him. He could try to fight, but he had no idea what kind of weapons these supposedly primitive beings might have developed. Or he could answer their hail and hope they were feeling diplomatic. The 30-minute deadline was ticking down fast, and with each passing second, Veltar realized that everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about human civilization was completely, utterly, and dangerously wrong. With just 3 minutes left on the deadline, Commander Veltar made his choice. His hands trembled as he opened a communication channel to the human fleet that had somehow surrounded his supposedly invisible ship. This is Commander Veltar of the Galactic Council Survey Fleet, he transmitted, trying to keep his voice steady. We are a peaceful scientific expedition studying your star system. We request permission to meet and discuss our presence here. The response came immediately in that same perfect galactic standard. Permission granted, Commander. You are directed to dock with Harmony Station at the following coordinates. Come alone, but be aware that any hostile action will result in immediate defensive measures. Veltar looked at the coordinates and felt his heart skip several beats. The location they'd given him was in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, exactly where his long-range sensors showed nothing but empty space just hours ago. Quinsha, are you seeing this? He asked his science officer. Her tentacles danced frantically across her controls. Commander, there's a massive structure at those coordinates. I mean massive. It's easily 3 kilometers long. How is that possible? It wasn't there yesterday. As Veltar's shuttle approached the coordinates, what he saw made him question everything he thought he knew about the universe. Harmony Station hung in space like a gleaming jewel, its hull a perfect blend of organic curves and geometric precision. Energy fields shimmered around its surface, and docking bays large enough to handle ships 10 times the size of his own vessel dotted its structure. Welcome to Harmony Station, Commander Veltar, came the voice, as his shuttle was guided into a docking bay by some kind of tractor beam technology that his own people had only theoretical knowledge of. I am Admiral Ji-Hoon Lee, and I look forward to our conversation. The docking bay doors sealed behind him with a soft hiss, and Veltar stepped out of his shuttle to find himself breathing perfectly filtered air in artificial gravity that felt more natural than what his own ship provided. Admiral Lee waited for him, a human male who looked to be in his middle years, wearing a uniform that seemed both practical and ceremonial. Commander, Lee said with a slight bow, I apologize for the dramatic introduction, but we needed to make sure you understood that this conversation would be taking place between equals. Veltar struggled to find words. Admiral, your people were classified as Level 2 on the Civilization Development Index. This facility alone would require Level 4 technology. How is this possible? Lee smiled and gestured for Veltar to follow him down a corridor lined with what appeared to be living walls that pulsed gently with bioluminescent patterns. Let me introduce you to Dr. Young-Suk Han, our Chief Science Officer. She can explain better than I can. Dr. Han was waiting in what could only be described as an observation lounge, with massive windows that provided a breathtaking view of Mars hanging in the distance. She was a small woman with sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to take in everything about Veltar in a single glance. Commander, she said, offering him a seat that automatically adjusted to his alien physiology, we've been aware of galactic civilization for 47 Earth years. Your people aren't as careful about hiding your archaeological sites as you might think. Veltar's mind reeled. Archaeological sites? What archaeological sites? Well, there's the crashed ship in the Pacific Ocean from about 12,000 years ago, the abandoned mining facility in our asteroid belt from roughly 8,000 years ago. The old monitoring station on our moon from 3,000 years ago. Should I continue? Captain Dong-Hyun Cho joined them, carrying what appeared to be a tablet displaying star charts. We've been studying your technology, your languages, your culture, and your politics for nearly half a century, Commander. We know about the hegemony wars, the trade disputes in the Outer Rim, and the Council's expansion policies. We've been preparing for this day for a very long time. Veltar felt like his universe was collapsing around him. But your electromagnetic signatures, your technology levels, your development patterns, everything indicated a standard level 2 civilization. Admiral Lee's smile became almost apologetic. We needed you to underestimate us, Commander. Would you like to know why, Dr. Kyunji Park, would you please explain our little innovation to our guest? Dr. Park was a younger woman who practically vibrated with excitement as she led them to what she called the Hybrid Consciousness Laboratory. Other species in the galaxy made a choice, Commander. They either focused on technological advancement or biological perfection. We humans, well, we're stubborn. We refuse to choose. She showed him tanks filled with what looked like living computer circuits, organic neural networks that pulsed with quantum energy. We merged our biological consciousness with quantum computing systems, human intuition combined with processing power that exceeds anything in your Council databases. Veltar stared at the displays showing reaction times, problem-solving capabilities, and adaptation speeds that were simply impossible. This is beyond level 4 civilization. This is something entirely new. Exactly, Admiral Lee said quietly. We didn't follow your development paths because we didn't know they existed when we started. We found our own way, and it led us somewhere your Galactic Council has never been before. The tour continued through laboratories where humans were terraforming Mars, through manufacturing bays where they were building ships using principles that made Veltar's head spin, and through communication centers where they monitored galactic traffic with casual efficiency. By the end of the day, Veltar realized he wasn't dealing with primitives who needed guidance. He was facing a civilization that had quietly surpassed everything the Galactic Council thought possible. Admiral Lee's shuttle glided smoothly through space toward Mars, with Commander Veltar pressed against the window like a child seeing fireworks for the first time. What he saw made his alien mind struggle to process the reality before him. Mars wasn't the dead red rock that his initial scans had shown 3 months ago. The planet was alive with activity. Massive atmospheric processes the size of mountains pumped clouds into the thin Martian sky, while enormous dome cities dotted the surface, like glowing pearls scattered across red sand. Dr. Sun Ho Kim runs our terraforming operations, Admiral Lee explained, as their shuttle descended toward the largest facility. He'll show you how we solve problems differently than your Council species. Dr. Kim met them at the landing platform, a cheerful man in his 50s who treated the impossible engineering marvel around him like it was perfectly normal. Welcome to New Sol Base, Commander Veltar. I hope you don't mind the construction noise. We're adding 3 new atmospheric processors this week. Veltar followed Dr. Kim through corridors carved directly into the Martian bedrock, past laboratories, where scientists worked alongside what appeared to be living machines. Commander, your species chose between biological adaptation and technological solutions for planetary engineering, correct? Well, yes, sir, Veltar replied, still staring at everything around him. Most civilizations either develop advanced terraforming technology or they genetically modify themselves to survive hostile environments. Both approaches take centuries to perfect. Dr. Kim grinned and opened a door to reveal something that shouldn't have been possible according to everything Veltar knew about science. Massive biological reactors grew like living trees throughout the chamber, their organic surfaces pulsing with technological components that seemed to be part of the creatures themselves. We decided to do both at the same time, Dr. Kim said. Simply, these biotechnological systems adapt to planetary conditions while simultaneously changing those conditions. They're part plant, part machine, and part something entirely new. Mars will have a breathable atmosphere in about 15 years instead of 15 centuries. Their next stop was the asteroid mining operation, where Captain In-Suk Yang gave Them a tour that made Veltar question everything he thought he knew about resource extraction. Instead of the massive industrial equipment his people used, humans had developed what Yang called cooperative mining systems. See those ships out there? Yang pointed to vessels that seemed to dance around the asteroids instead of attacking, them with heavy machinery. They're not really ships in the traditional sense. They're more like extensions of human consciousness. The pilots don't just control them, they become them. Veltar watched in amazement as human miners seemed to merge their awareness with their vessels, moving through the asteroid field with impossible precision and grace. They weren't mining the rock so much as convincing them to give up their valuable materials willingly. Your efficiency ratings are 300% higher than Galactic Council standards, Veltar said, checking his portable scanner. How is that possible? Human intuition combined with quantum-enhanced reflexes, Yang replied. We don't fight against the environment. We work with it. Makes everything much easier. But the real shock came when Admiral Lee brought him to the deep space monitoring station. Commander Jae-Sung Kwon welcomed them into a facility that looked more like a living organism than a technological installation. Organic walls pulsed with streams of data, while human operators sat in chairs that seemed to grow around them like comfortable cocoons. Commander Veltar, I'd like to show you something that might interest you, Kwon said, gesturing to a massive display screen that flickered to life. We've been tracking alien movements throughout local galactic space for over 2 decades. The UR screen showed a 3-dimensional map of nearby star systems, with colored dots representing different alien species moving through space. Veltar recognized trade routes, military patrol patterns, and exploration missions that the Galactic Council believed were completely secret. You've been watching us, Veltar whispered, his voice barely audible. Watching, learning, and preparing, Kwon confirmed. We know about the hegemony wars that ended 6 years ago. We know about the trade disputes between the Arcturian Empire and the Vegan Collective. We know about your council's plans to expand into the Outer Rim territories next year. Dr. Mi-Young Lee, the station's xenosociology specialist, joined them at the display. She was a quiet woman who spoke with the authority of someone who had spent decades studying alien cultures. Commander, your Galactic Council operates on the assumption that primitive species wait passively for contact. You assume they're grateful for guidance and eager to follow established protocols. She touched the display, and it zoomed in to show human vessels scattered throughout the galaxy, not just in the Sol system but everywhere. We've been out there for 15 years, Commander, quietly exploring, carefully observing, patiently learning. We know your cultures, your technologies, your weaknesses, and your strengths. Veltar felt something close to fear creeping up his spine. What do you want from us? Admiral Lee's expression remained friendly but firm. We want what every sovereign species wants, Commander. Respect, fair treatment, and the right to determine our own destiny. The question isn't whether humanity is ready for galactic civilization. The question is whether galactic civilization is ready for humanity. As they prepared to return to Harmony Station, Veltar realized that his mission had completely failed. He hadn't discovered a primitive species that needed guidance. He had stumbled upon a civilization that had quietly surpassed everything the Galactic Council thought possible. And now they wanted to rewrite the rules of how species joined the galactic community. Commander Veltar's hands shook as he finished, recording his report to the Galactic Council. After 3 days of reviewing his data, double-checking his measurements, and trying to find some rational explanation for what he'd witnessed, he finally had to accept the impossible truth. Humanity wasn't just another primitive species waiting for guidance. They were something entirely new. Council Command, this is Survey Fleet Commander Veltar reporting on the Sol system investigation. He spoke into his communication array, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. I must revise all previous assessments. The human species has achieved capabilities that exceed our current classification system. They are not level 2. They are not level 3. They may have surpassed level 4 entirely through methods we don't understand. The response from Council headquarters came faster than he expected, crackling with disbelief from across the galaxy. Commander Veltar, please clarify your previous transmission. Are you suggesting that a species we classified as primitive has somehow leapfrogged thousands of years of normal development? Before Veltar could answer, every communication channel in Council space suddenly activated at once. A new signal cut through their networks with crystal clarity, transmitted simultaneously to every Council world, every trade station, and every military outpost across the galaxy. "Greetings to the Galactic Council and all member species," came a calm, confident voice in perfect galactic standard. "This is Fleet Admiral Haewon Jung of the Sol Defense Network, speaking on behalf of the United Earth Government and our colonial settlements throughout local space." On the Council's homeworld of Galactic Prime, emergency sessions were called as government leaders scrambled to understand what was happening. The human transmission continued, broadcast live to billions of beings across dozens of star systems. "We formally request recognition of the Sol system and our expanding territories as a sovereign galactic power. We seek trade partnerships, mutual defense agreements, and diplomatic relations with all peaceful species. We do not request membership. In your council, we request recognition as equals in the galactic community." Chancellor Zixmorth, the ancient leader of the Galactic Council, felt his 6 hearts beating in rapid succession as he watched the transmission from his emergency bunker. In 3,000 years of Council history, no species had ever announced themselves this way. New civilizations were supposed to be discovered, evaluated, and gradually introduced to galactic society. They didn't just appear fully formed and demand equal treatment. "How many ships do they have?" he asked his military advisors. The answer came from General Korthalon, whose 4 eyes were wide with shock as he read intelligence reports flowing in from across the galaxy. "Sir, we're tracking over 200 human vessels that have appeared in Council space within the past 6 hours. They're not attacking or threatening anyone. They're just there, announcing their presence at major trade routes and diplomatic stations." Meanwhile, Captain Won-seok Park was making history as he established the first human embassy on Galactic Prime. His small diplomatic vessel had appeared in orbit around the Council capital without triggering any defense systems, as if it had simply materialized out of empty space. "Greetings, Chancellor Zixmorth," Park transmitted as his ship requested docking permission. "I am Captain Park of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. I carry formal proposals from our government for trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual recognition treaties. When would be convenient for you to meet?" The sheer politeness of the request somehow made it even more unsettling for the Council leaders. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to work. Species were supposed to be confused, overwhelmed, and grateful for Council guidance. They weren't supposed to show up with prepared diplomatic proposals and perfect knowledge of galactic protocols. Dr. Kyungmi Ro's cultural exchange program was already operating on 17 different worlds, offering human art, music, and literature to alien populations who found themselves fascinated by these strange new beings. Her teams had somehow learned local customs, languages, and social structures well enough to fit in seamlessly with societies they'd supposedly never encountered before. "The humans have been studying us for decades," reported Dr. Yilmoth, the Council's chief xenoanthropologist. "They know our cultures better than we know theirs. They've been preparing for this moment while we assumed they were still figuring out basic space travel." Back on Earth, Admiral Jung stood in the Global Command Center watching status reports flow in from human teams across the galaxy. The plan was working perfectly. Instead of begging for acceptance into an existing order, humanity was presenting itself as a mature civilization, ready for partnership. "Admiral, we're receiving responses from 47 different species," reported Captain Dong-Hyun Cho from his communications station. "Most are requesting formal diplomatic meetings. The Arcturian Empire wants to discuss trade agreements. The Vegan Collective is asking about cultural exchanges. Even some of the more isolationist species are showing interest." The Emergency Council session lasted for 3 days as representatives from hundreds of species debated what to do about humanity. Some wanted to treat them as a threat and attempt to contain their expansion. Others saw opportunities for profitable partnerships. But everyone agreed on one thing: the old rules no longer applied. Chancellor Zixmorth finally addressed the assembled council with words that would reshape galactic politics forever. "For the first time in our recorded history, We face a species that achieved galactic-level capabilities through completely unknown methods. They didn't follow our development patterns because they created their own. They didn't wait for our guidance because they didn't need it. The ancient leader looked around the chamber at representatives from species who had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Perhaps it's time we considered that our way isn't the only way. Perhaps it's time we learned from them instead of trying to teach them. Admiral Jung's final transmission to the Council carried a message that echoed across the galaxy. The universe is vast enough for many different approaches to civilization. We look forward to learning from each other and exploring the stars, together as equals. The age of human isolation was over. The age of true galactic cooperation had begun.